Welcome back to CBS Mornings. We are just 2 days away from the kickoff of this year's World Cup in Qatar. And on the surface, the stadiums are highly impressive. The country, one of the richest in the world, has spared no expense in creating state-of-the-art facilities to host the competition. Except, it seems, when it comes to the workers who actually built them. Many migrants are forced to live in squalor. Holly Williams spoke to some of those workers, and she's here with us right now. Holly, good morning. Welcome.
Hey, Nate. Well, this World Cup has always been controversial. Firstly, the weather is so hot in Qatar, they've had to switch the competition from the summer to the winter. Recently, the former president of FIFA, that's soccer's governing body, said it was a mistake to give the World Cup to Qatar. But for many people, the biggest issue is Qatar's human rights record. They went wild in Qatar 12 years ago when they heard their country had won the right to host the World Cup. A sheikh from the country's ruling family promised it would be a success.
Thank you for giving Qatar a chance, and we will not let you down. You will be proud of us.
A Middle Eastern nation roughly the size of Connecticut, Qatar's one of the wealthiest countries in the world. It's poured more than $200 billion into 8 state-of-the-art, air-conditioned soccer stadiums and all the other infrastructure to host over 1 million spectators. But to build it, Qatar's relied on an army of migrant workers, mostly from South Asia and Africa, toiling in temperatures of up to 120 degrees and living in crowded, squalid camps like this one.
They're like anyone else in the world. You want to have a better life than your parents. You want your children to go to college, to have a better life than you. So you're desperate for any opportunity. So you have a World Cup dependent on migrant workers because they're cheap. And migrant workers are cheap because they're being exploited.
Mustafa Qadri founded Equidem, an organisation that investigates labour abuses. He says he was arrested in Qatar while researching conditions there, including forced labour, workers going unpaid for months at a time, and unsafe work sites with deadly results.
It's very hard to give an exact figure. I would suspect it's actually in the hundreds. I think hundreds of workers have died to make this World Cup possible.
Imran Khan comes from Bangladesh and claims he worked shifts of up to 48 hours straight on buildings including Lusail Stadium, where the World Cup final will be held.
I have no choices. A worker have no choice. No rights, no choice.
He told us he was paid about $350 a month, half of what he was originally promised.
If I'm making complaint against company, they just say, go back. Pack your clothes and go back.
Go back to Bangladesh.
Yes. Just leave.
Budan Pandit left his home in Nepal to build roads in Qatar, sending money back to his family before he was killed in an accident last year. His widow, Urmila, told us her family received no compensation, just her husband's body. They've now fallen deeper into poverty, she says, and sometimes can't afford food. Labour rights groups want Qatar to set up a fund of around $500 million to compensate injured and unpaid workers and the families of those killed. This month, Qatar rejected that suggestion as a publicity stunt.
It's really conflicting, and that, I think, is also makes you very upset, knowing that we're going to watch our teams that we love play, and at the same time, this is all made possible because of this incredible exploitation.
I know when you think about that, exploitation, I think, is a word there. Is Qatar doing anything to address any of these claims?
Yeah, also, Gayle, Qatar says that it is paying back unpaid wages, and it has actually made some pretty significant changes, including raising the minimum wage and allowing migrant workers to switch jobs without their employer's permission. But human rights groups say those changes just don't go far enough, and actually, in many cases,
aren't even being enforced.
Oh. Holly, would a report like this even be shown in Qatar? Like, would they block this? Would the censors stop it?
It's a good question.
That's such a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I guess when you go to Qatar, what really strikes you is just the kind of imbalance in power between this really tiny country, incredibly wealthy, just a few 100,000 citizens, and then these hundreds of thousands or even millions of migrant workers.
That gap between the extremely wealthy and those who are struggling financially.
Yeah, there's so many questions about how they even got it to begin with, and that's a whole nother issue.
And you've got another report coming up on Monday.
We do.
Yeah.
Holly, thank you so much.